Hello everyone, patching in today's third video. So earlier on today we released the GazWeapons.com December 2016 month ahead forecast. You can find that on the month ahead forecast page. We also released the weekend forecast, and you can find a video to that here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page ever so slightly, it's underneath the link ads. There's also, of course, the written version. You get to that by buttons at the top of the page. Going to be a week or two harsh, starting off quite cold, and becoming a lot milder later in the week. If you want to know more about weekend forecast, do check that out. This is CANSIPS Saturday, so we're going to be going 6 months ahead. Actually, we're going to be going 7 months ahead today with the long-range CANSIPS model from the website tropicaltidbits.com. You can find the link to Tropical Tidbits on the links page. So we're going to have a look at the mean sea level pressure anomalies. We'll start off with the 500 millibar high anomalies for the next 3 months. And we'll also have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies as well. And also we'll finish up having a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies going into next year. See what model is predicting in terms of ENSO. So a lot to cram in. And I'll get on with it for you in a second. Before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you'll help your website. Thanks very much for doing that. It's also video ads, most pages, which open that content when you watch me close back up again. Does help to pay for gas events. And just say that Chris Shop is still open. You've still got time to get Chris shopping from Amazon. Just click the green button that says Chris Shop and then go to our Chris Shop page. From there, you click through the Amazon banners. Go and do your Christmas shopping at Amazon as well. Because you've gone from GazWeapons to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on the things that you are buying. And a big thank you to everybody for doing that. It's been a huge success again this year. And as I say, you've still got time to get Christmas presents out to you. But time is getting on now, so I wouldn't leave it too much longer. Right, let's get on with the update. Now, just say we're doing 7 months this month. Now, normally we would start this sort of next month, so we would say it from January and go 6 months ahead to June. And just to say that it's really just for fun. It's not to be relied upon by any means. But just say, so might as well look at them, but don't take it too seriously. But we're actually going to start in December. We're going to start this month. Just this once. Usually we will start it in January, but I'm going to start it and cover the full winter period. So we're going to start off 500 millibar height anomaly for December, first of all. We're only 3 days into the month, so I thought we would begin by having a look at CANSIPS December 500 millibar height anomaly. So we see that we've got a ridge of above average heights in the Atlantic. It extends up towards Greenland, Iceland. Quite a deep trough in across the northeastern parts of Europe, and the flow with that is going something a bit like that. Now, the position of the trough and the ridge is quite interesting because at times we're going to be bringing in the air from the west and from the Atlantic, so at times it will probably be fairly mild. However, if we take this ridge northwards, there is a suggestion that the heights are quite high, really, across Greenland and Iceland. If we manage to do that, then this trough could back westwards enough to bring cold air down from the north. So I don't rule out the chance at all of getting some colder weather this December. I know there's a lot of, it's a very bleak picture on many of the forums and on social media as well, with people already starting to tear their hair out a little bit. I just say carry on watching this space, really, because whilst okay, it's going to be milder next week, and certainly the second week of December looking quite mild, I'm not ruling out the chance of some colder weather later in the month. So we really do have to wait and see how this is going to play out. Now, the January 500 millibar height anomaly is very interesting. And this is normally where we'd be starting off with these 6 months look aheads. So, January, you've got a trough down here across the south of England and through into France, and also going towards northern parts of Italy. Then we've got all of this red up here to the north, so it looks like we've got quite a bit of northern blocking there. And you would have thought that the jet stream is probably on a southerly track doing something like that. Places us on the cold side of the jet, and we could be bringing colder air in from the east with that. Now, the GazWeapons.com winter forecast suggested that January possibly holds the greatest potential for cold weather, and I think the CANSIPS might be picking up on that signal, certainly in terms of its 500 millibar height anomaly. And then we go through to February. This is how the 500 millibar heights are looking for February. So we've got this cold trough extending down through central and eastern parts of Europe, ridging the Atlantic. And this looks like it's back to very similar to the scenario that we've got going on for December, but probably a little bit more westerly there. So probably doing something a bit like that. Overall, it looks like quite a mildish month again, I would have thought, in February. Although, again, the position of the ridge just here and this trough through here certainly doesn't mean, or it doesn't rule out the chance that we might bring the air down from the north at times and have some colder incursions. So I think CANSIPS is still very much along the lines of the GavsWeatherVids.com winter forecast, which is, yes, we will have milder spells, probably in all 3 winter months, but also in all 3 winter months, we probably get colder spells, and January being the focus for that colder weather. So alternating mild and cold conditions, and probably some wintry weather at times as well, mostly focused on January. But these mild spells, when they occur, they will be potentially very mild. We're going to have one later this week, and they will see the temperatures really going up. So, really interesting winter, this one. There's going to be lots of swings and roundabouts going on, I think. Times the forums and social media will be in a state of depression. At times, some people will be very happy. So, it's going to be one of those on and off winters. Right, let's get on with the rest of the update. Then we're going to start off with mean sea level pressure, and then we'll have a look at corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies. Starting off again with December, so it's very similar to what we were just looking at with the heights. We've got this deep trough in across the east of Europe. We've got some ridging down here, and also going on up here. So at times, yes, we'll be bringing the flow in off the Atlantic, but at times we could bring cold air down from the north, and that's perhaps most likely later on in the month. Then we go through to January, and this is what CANSIPS is seeing for January. Again, we've got all of this red up here, which looks like it's quite a good signal for high pressure to be around Scandinavia and backing into Western Europe. Low pressure is underneath it. So again, I think this places us on the cold side of a jet stream going somewhere like that. And yes, we could be bringing in cold air from the east during January. So once again, backs up mean sea level pressure anomaly, backing up the 500 height anomaly, in that I think January possibly holding out the greatest prospect for a significant spell of cold weather. That's not to say there won't be cold weather in the other 2 winter months, but January possibly holds out the greatest prospect. And then we move through into February, and again the mean sea level pressure anomaly looks quite interesting, perhaps a little bit more interesting for February with this and the 500 millibar heights. We've got a big area of high pressure, above average heights, high pressure in the Atlantic. That's quite a big mid-Atlantic ridge. The trough is there to the northeast of Europe, and again I think that places us somewhere like that. The jet stream, that looks cold for Scandinavia and eastern parts of Europe. For us, again, at times we probably bring the air in off the Atlantic, so it's probably mild some of the time, but also with the position of the ridge there and the trough there, we can't rule out the chance of bringing down northerly winds. So cold snaps, milder interludes in February, and then January has the greatest prospect for a significant spell of cold weather. Let's go on beyond that. Then we're up to month 4 now, so actually we're up to month 3, I think. So well, 4 if we take it, but we're starting from December, would normally be 3 months out at this point if we're starting from January. Anyway, we're up to March, and this one looks very unsettled for March, actually. Deep trough of low pressure there around the UK, also going into Europe. It's hints of above average heights up over Greenland as well, so we could be entrenching cold air into that trough. It does look very unsettled, to say the least, with this area of low pressure through March. Then we go through to April, and again, this one looks quite unsettled as well. The mean sea level pressure anomalies have this low pressure around the west of Europe, probably doing something a bit like that. So, again, I think we could get some colder snaps coming through with that, but the main thing is that it does look very unsettled. Going much further out now, so reliability obviously is becoming very low. May next, and we find the trough weakening, low pressure is weakening up to the north and the west. Actually, it's not much of a signal for May. It just looks like a very typical May, really, with the pressure anomalies not really doing much, probably unsettled at times, probably having drier spells at times as well. Temperature probably not deviating too far from average, so a very, very average looking signal for May. And then finally we go through to June, 6 months away, so just for fun. But June actually looks quite good, or it's 7 months away if we start from December, but 6 months away starting from where we would normally be starting in January. I hope you're able to keep following this. I shouldn't have started with December, really, but I wanted to get the full 3 winter months in just one last time. So for June, we find that we have this area of a high pressure around the UK. That looks quite pleasant, actually, for June. That would be a decent start to the summer, albeit it's a fairly weak signal and a very long way away. So let's see how the temperatures are looking with this. So we go back to December, and the temperature signal looks generally a little bit milder than average for us. Most parts of Scandinavia and northeastern Europe, interestingly, coming out colder than average, but for us it's slightly milder than average. Remember, in December we've got mild weather alternating potentially with something a little bit colder later on. We go through into January. This possibly holds our best prospect for something colder. The temperature anomaly is actually just coming out around average. No great deviation, but based on the height anomaly, I do think January holds the best prospect for something cold. Remember, these long-range models can be very difficult to get them showing colder temperature anomalies, and based on the heights, I think January holds the best prospect for something colder. February coming out average with the temperatures as well. I think February is one of those months where we have mild spells of cold snaps really waxing and waning and alternating with one another. March comes out with average temperatures again. The way these long-range models work is that many of these months that are coming out average with the temperatures could actually be a little bit cooler than average when we get to the actual period. So they tend to overdo the temperature anomalies by around half a degree or so. So if you're on this part of the scale with the temperature anomaly, actually in reality you might finish up down there somewhere. So many of these months, January, February and March, could all be a little bit on the colder side if the model is signalling them to be average. Hope that makes sense. We go through to April, we get a milder than average month here, and that could actually come out a little bit milder than average or close to normal. Long way out, of course, so don't worry too much about it. May also looking average with the temperatures. The thing that's going on with May is that everything looks quite average, really. Nothing particularly exciting showing up for May. And then finally for June, we've got high pressure in over the country, so it looks warmer than average. A nice start to the summer if that comes off, and indeed for most parts of northern Europe as well. That's a very, very long way off, so it really is just the thumb. And then precipitation next. So again, coming back for June, we find that we're a little bit wetter than average in terms of the precipitation anomaly for December. Out in the Atlantic, around the Northern Atlantic, around Iceland, it looks drier than average. Notice it's really quite a wet signal as well for many parts of Europe. So this is indicative of the trough being through here, some sort of a ridging feature around here, and also going down to here. At times we bring the jet stream through and it's mild and westerly, but again we do have the risk of something colder coming through, and that might be later in December. January looks drier than average to the north, so it's a little bit drier than average up here again. And also, if you come over here towards Scandinavia, a little bit drier than average there. Wetter than average down here. So, again, this ties in, I think, with jet stream being on a bit of a southerly track going through there. With high pressure up here, you would expect the winds to be coming from the northeast. So, again, I think that does imply that January could have our greatest chance of cold weather. Not saying it won't be cold weather in the other 2 winter months, but January could have a greater chance of cold weather. We go through to February, and interestingly, that looks significantly drier than average through the Atlantic and into the UK as well. March then turns significantly wetter than average, so very much chopping and changing, as I'm sure you have gathered. It is that kind of winter, I think, where no particular pattern is going to dominate for a very long time. We keep chopping and changing from month to month, and I would expect this even from week to week. There will be a lot of variation and swings, wild swings with temperature and everything else. It's going to be an interesting winter if this signal is right. April looks near normal with the precipitation, too, ever so slightly wetter than average. May, again, actually comes out a little bit wetter than average again in May. So it does look like quite an unsettled spring, doesn't it, really, from the precipitation. I thought May would be closer to average with precipitation. And then June, yes, we got high pressure in for June, so we start summer on a warm and fairly dry note. Whether that will continue, I'm not going to speculate on, because that's where I'm going to draw the line. I could go on further than that into July, August, September, October and November 2017, but we have to draw the line somewhere. We'll get just too silly. So I'm going to finish at June. So that's how it's looking, but it all backs up the idea that we had in the winter forecast, I think, which is that we have lots of changes, lots of swings and roundabouts through the winter. At times it's mild, at times we get cold weather, and January has the best blocking signal around and to the north of Scandinavia, so that possibly holds out the best prospect for something colder. Just have a quick look at ENSO, see what model is predicting in the equatorial Pacific. So in December we still have a weak, very weak La Nina signals of borderline ENSO neutral to La Nina, and then we go through into January and February, and that fades away. We just go back to neutral by the time we end the winter, and then into March we start to find warmer sea surface temperature is beginning to gather around Chile, quite interestingly. And let's run on. The CANSIPS has recently been playing with the idea that we might see a re-emergence of El Nino. Let's see if it does that. Well, look at this. We go through to the summer. This is to June, and very much starting to see warmer than average sea surface temperature is appearing here in the central part of the equatorial Pacific. So a west-based Madokai El Nino looks like it's being predicted for the summer by CANSIPS, and we go through to August, and we do have a weak Madokai El Nino signature emerging there, and then into the autumn, and again basically we have a weak El Nino. It's nothing like the Super Nino that we had for 15-16. That would take us to that level of the temperature scale, maybe a bit higher than that, towards that level of the temperature scale. Nothing like that is being predicted at this stage by the CANSIPS model, but it is still seeing the potential for a re-emergence of El Nino next summer, and possibly taking us on into the second half of 2017. It's a very long way off. Don't take it too seriously, but the model is consistently showing this when we do these CANSIPS updates. So it'll be interesting to see whether it's getting it right or not. We'll begin the ENSO updates again, by the way, next month in January, where we'll start monitoring what's going on in the Pacific Ocean. We left them off while we did the winter update, because the ENSO plays a big part in the winter updates anyway, and winter forecast, so there will be no point doing an ENSO update and the winter updates, but they will begin again in January. Coming back to the next few months' weather, with CANSIPS finally then summing it all up. So very changeable winter being predicted. looks overall like we have fairly mildish conditions in December, but there is a chance of some colder weather later. January holding the best prospect for something colder, or significantly colder, I think, with the blocking signal at its strongest in January. Then February, probably mild and colder snaps, alternating with one another. Beyond that, it's just for fun, so I won't bother with that. Right, that's all for CANSIPS Saturday. Now, tomorrow we haven't got any winter updates to do, so what are we going to do at Gaz Weatherby's on Sunday? Maybe we should have a day off, but we're not going to have a day off. In the morning tomorrow, I'm going to have a look at the next week to 10 days or so, and also tomorrow we're going to have the next Christmas update. I think that's up to update 16, the 16th Christmas update. That'll be on Sunday evening. And tomorrow afternoon, may seem a bit bizarre to be talking about this, but tomorrow afternoon we're going to have a sneak peek for spring, because we're finished with the winter updates now. So the long range begins to think about spring through the winter. We're always a season ahead, if you like, with the long range. So the next season, start thinking about is going to be spring. And we'll have a little bit of a sneak peek of that. Just get 2 or 3 models together and set the scene tomorrow afternoon. So come back for all of the updates tomorrow. But that's all for now, and thanks very much for watching.